did. They embraced white supremacy wholeheartedly. They perpetuated our genocide as well as the Holocaust of our African sisters and brothers. The white women in the United Settler States were appalled at the prospect of black men being able to vote before them, so they created their suffragette movement. Feminism was a movement based around the demand that US society acknowledge their whiteness, their superiority. Their equality with the white man was the only thing that mattered to them. Amelia S. Quinton, a white feminist, once said, "Let us give to the destitute tribe Christian homes and missions, for without these no race can rise." As you can see, European women loved white supremacy. It fueled their arrogance, to the point where they began to see themselves as the mothers of the human race. Pretty ironic, considering they were only crawling out of the caves while we were developing beautiful civilizations. A Nicantlaka sister, Pam Colorado, summarizes feminism perfectly. "It seems to me the feminist agenda is basically one of rearranging social relations within the society which is occupying our land and utilizing our resources for its own benefit. Nothing I've encountered in feminist theory addresses the fact of our colonization or the wrongness of white women's stake in it. I can only conclude that, like Marxism, which arrives at the same outcome through class rather than gender theory, feminism is essentially a Euro-supremacist ideology and is therefore quite imperialist in its implications. We do not need a Eurocentric ideology to help us practice what we have always practiced as a people. The only reason we stopped respecting one another, irregardless of gender, is because the Europeans brainwashed our ancestors into acting like them. That is why our Nicantlaka brothers shout at us, hit us, abuse us. It is not because it is part of our culture, something I have heard my Nicantlaka sisters say numerous times. It is part of our ongoing oppression under colonialism. It is part of living as a colonized Nicantlaka man who has no real power on his own land or anywhere else on this planet. My brothers have to put up with white supremacist abuse on a daily basis, whether it be through institutions or individuals. They have to feel hungry despite coming from a continent that could feed him and all our people easily. Here, we have to struggle to make ends meet, holding down 2 or 3 cleaning jobs, sometimes more. Back home, we also have to struggle because we are forced to pay rent to the white colonial government to live on our land. We have to pay bills to white colonial companies so that we can drink our water. All of this creates helplessness and frustration in my Nicantlaka brothers, and after a day of working and worrying and struggling, they take their anger out on us. I'm not saying it is right. I'm not saying we should put up with it. I'm just putting it in context. We should always put it in context. Our men are not innately abusive and violent. All we have to do is look back at our original societies in order to understand this. We have to look at the bigger picture and see that domestic violence is a symptom, not a cause. It is not the root problem. At the same time, we must not ignore the sexism that my Nicantlaka brothers go through. Masculinity in a brown body seems to scream danger in this white supremacist society. Their masculinity makes white women clutch onto their handbags and the arms of their partners a little tighter. At the same time, their sexuality is fetishized. They are seen as the forbidden fruit in the eyes of the white woman, an exotic accessory. All of this is further perpetuated by the colonial label of Latino, a label that takes away our true Nicantlaka indigenous identity. Instead of being seen as descendants of genius and greatness, my brothers are seen as gangsters, drug dealers, not sought after for their honorable heritage, but sought after because they are sexy Latin boys. My sisters are reduced to Spanish-speaking, salsa-dancing sexual objects who wear body shapers and bum lifters in order to conform our Nicantlaka indigenous bodies to this stereotyping fetish. Both my brothers and my sisters have fallen for this colonial trap. My brothers find themselves going after those of us who tick the boxes of this Latina stereotype. My sisters seem to be only attracted to the bad boys of our community, instead of the brothers who are less contaminated by this colonial cliche. It is a vicious circle, but it is not a circle that's been carved out by us. It has been carved out by our colonizers, our oppressors, the Europeans. The term Latin America was first coined by the European settler, Francisco Bilbao, in 1856. From that came the identity Latin American, an identity that was originally created for the Europeans who had been born on my land, on the blood of my ancestors, on the ruins of our civilizations. The Latin American identity never belonged to us, the original people of Samanawa. The label of Latino is not truly ours either. It is merely an invention of the Cubans in Miami, the Spanish criollos, who had to flee Cuba because the wealth they had stolen from our Nicantlaca people and our African sisters and brothers was being taken away from them. They took control of the media and used the term Latino and Hispanic too to target my people for profit and power. Both the European man and the European woman are involved in this disgusting distortion of my people's true identity as the indigenous and rightful owners of our continent. Feminism is merely a tool for the white woman to gain more power over us in the colonial structure. Both the pale man and the pale woman have played a role in the genocide of my Nicantlaca people. She turned a supposed blind eye to her husband's thievery, whether it was our gold, silver, or the virginity of Nicantlaca children. She watched her home get built by Nicantlaca and African slaves, whom she had purchased at the slave auctions. She happily lived in that house and on the land that was stolen from us. And when we weren't picking enough cotton out on the plantations that were created on stolen land, she made us get whipped and beaten until the blood poured out of our backs and the bruises spread all over our skin. She ran the Indian boarding schools. She molested and beat the pride, dignity, culture, identity, and humanity out of our Nicantlaca children, our ancestors. Now there are European women as heads of states in the colonial nations of Argentina, Brazil, and Chile. And just like the Spanish Queen Isabella, who funded Columbus's invasion of my land, they continue to kill my Nicantlaca sisters and brothers. They steal the Amazon from my people in Brazil. They send the army and police out to shoot my people dead in Argentina, and they imprison our Mapuche warriors in Chile. They violently plot against our warrior leader, Nicolás Maduro, in Venezuela. These white women are not fighting for my sisters. They are part of the same colonial system that oppresses both Nicantlaca women and men equally. In order to fight for my people's liberation, I must use the tool of decolonization, of Nicantlaca nationalism. Feminism, in any of its forms, only helps to maintain the illusion that the struggle of a Nicantlaca woman is against our Nicantlaca men. It does not go to the root of our oppression. It does not expose the fact that it was European men who indoctrinated my brothers with machismo. Through decolonization, my people, irregardless of gender or age or anything, can find complete liberation. We can rid ourselves of the machismo, the homophobia, and all the other poisons the Europeans infected us with. There are movements throughout my land that are fighting against the colonial governments, and these movements involve both Nicantlaca women and men. In Colombia, a republic that is ruled over by Spaniards, there are two Nicantlaca women running for president, Clara Lopez and Aida Abello. They are not fighting over gender issues. They are fighting over our land and our resources. They are demanding that our land and our resources are in our hands and not in the greedy hands of the invaders. In Venezuela, there are fierce Nicantlaca and African women who together formed a cordon in order to stop Maria Corina Machado, the white opposition leader, from entering parliament after it was revealed that she was planning to violently overthrow our warrior leader, Nicolás Maduro. The head of the country's armed forces is a Nicantlaca sister, Carmen Melendez, someone who is ready to militarily defend our people against the claws of the criollos, the European descendants who continue to loot our land. In Bolivia, our warrior leader, Evo Morales Ayma, is staying true to our Nicantlaca roots and making the changes necessary so that my Nicantlaca sisters can play key roles in political life. Under his leadership, the proportion of Nicantlaca women in parliament has doubled. We now hold 47% of Senate seats, and Ana Maria Romero, a Nicantlaca sister, has been elected Senate president. Furthermore, my Nicantlaca sisters make up nearly half of the mayors and council persons in Bolivia's 327 local governments, and 96% of them are holding public office for the first time. All this goes to show that with the power back in our own hands, instead of the hands of the European settlers, we will practice the ways of our ancestors and respect one another, regardless of gender. We will work together as one Nicantlaca people in order to regain our land, our resources, and the right to govern ourselves, with no interference from the criollos. We have not been an independent people for 500 years. Our independence was taken from us when the Europeans invaded our lands and killed 95% of our ancestors through the cowardly use of smallpox. Our Holocaust continued during and after the Criollo independence movement, a movement created by and for the white settlers on my land, so that they did not have to take orders from the European crowns anymore, having complete free reign to rape and pillage. These criollos are still raping and pillaging. We are still under attack by the colonizers, the invaders, the true illegals on our continent. Take a look at the elite who are constantly undermining the leadership of our honorable warriors, Evo Morales Ayma and Nicolás Maduro. You will see European faces, red with anger, because our people in those regions are slowly but surely putting an end to their reign. I will fight these parasites as a Nicantlaca, alongside my sisters and my brothers. I will rid my land of all European poisons. I will rip them out by the root. I will not allow my gender to be a barrier between me and my brothers. I will not demonize my brothers, my fathers, my grandfathers. I will uplift my sons, my nephews, my grandsons. I will tell them of our ancestors, how honorable we were, how we worked as a collective, developing societies that would outshine anything they could imagine. I am a descendant of those Nicantlaca women, of the warriors, scientists, weavers, poets, farmers, astronomers, philosophers, who alongside Nicantlaca men wove Nicantlaca society together. And together with my Nicantlaca brothers, we will pick up our weapons of literature, we will fortify the pride of our true identity, and fight against our one and only enemy, white supremacy.